Why America is struggling with EVs. Globally, the electric vehicle EV revolution is transforming transportation. Nevertheless, the US is finding great difficulty keeping up. Even with developments in EV technology, cultural opposition to change, poor infrastructure for charging EVs and expensive upfront prices prevent broad acceptance of them. Particularly rural places suffer with poor availability to charging stations, which fuels range anxiety issues. The US also mostly depends on foreign materials for EV batteries, therefore compromising supply chains and postponing home manufacturing. While an aging energy grid struggles to meet rising demand, misperceptions about EV dependability and costs discourage consumers. Divergent state government policies contribute to the uncertainty and slow down development. The US runs behind nations like China and Norway, blazing ahead in the EV field. Dealing with these issues calls for group efforts and creative ideas to open the path for a transport future marked by greater sustainability. 1. Insufficient system of charging. Adoption of electric vehicles depends on a strong charging network, although America lags behind nations including China and certain European countries. Although the number of charging stations has increased, coverage is still inconsistent, and rural areas notably suffer. Many possible EV consumers hesitate mostly because of this lack of infrastructure. Still a major psychological barrier, they are worried about range anxiety, the worry of running out of before arriving at a charging station. The dependability and speed of charging stations vary even in metropolitan regions where they are more common. While refueling is a rapid and consistent operation at petrol stations, depending on the station's capacity, EV charging can span minutes to hours. High-speed chargers are currently rare, and many public chargers suffer with maintenance problems, therefore discouraging possible customers. Under the bipartisan infrastructure law, the $7.5 billion federal government allocation is a positive forward step. The difficulty, then, is using this money effectively and making sure it fills in urban and rural areas alike. Achieving national coverage and standardizing a pricing infrastructure also depends critically on partnerships with utility companies and other businesses. 2. High starting costs. Although savings on fuel and maintenance help to minimize the lifetime cost of owning an electric vehicle, many Americans still find great difficulty with the upfront outlay. With their average price in 2024 hovering around $53,000 compared to $45,000 for a gas-powered vehicle, EVs are often more costly than their internal combustion engine ICE equivalents. Middle and lower income households find great discouragement in this pricing disparity. Though their efficacy is sometimes limited, government incentives, such federal tax credits and state rebates, seek to make EVs more reasonably priced. Many customers find the claiming of these rewards difficult and confusing. Moreover, these incentives usually exclude used EVs, which may otherwise provide many customers a more reasonably priced entrance point. Investing in economies of scale and next-generation technologies helps manufacturers try to cut production costs. To match ICE cars, nevertheless, major improvements including more affordable battery manufacture and simplified supply networks are required. Affordability will still be a challenge until then, especially for individuals who live paycheck to payback. 3. Challenges in battery manufacturing. Though the foundation of electric cars is batteries, the United States has major difficulties in this field. Most EV batteries are made in Asia right now. China controls a sizable portion of the worldwide supply chain. For vital raw resources like lithium, cobalt, and nickel elements needed for battery production, the United States mostly depends on imports. This reliance exposes the United States to supply chain interruptions, including trade restrictions or mining bottlenecks, as well as geopolitical concerns. Driven by programs like the Inflation Reduction Act, attempts at localizing battery manufacture are in progress. This law seeks to lessen dependency on outside sources and offers incentives for home industry. Still, creating a competitive and sustainable battery supply chain is a long-term project. It calls for not just improvements in mining and refining capacity, but also the creation of recycling technology to recycle old batteries and therefore address environmental issues. Moreover, one cannot overlook the social and environmental effects of battery manufacture. Cobalt is one of the minerals that mining for usually entails unethical methods and environmental damage. To create a strong battery ecosystem for the United States, addressing these challenges with sustainable practices and strong laws will be very vital. 4th, customer objectivity against modification. Adoption of EV depends much on cultural elements. In the United States, consumer reluctance is a major obstacle. Long favored by Americans are big, gas-powered vehicles, especially SUVs and trucks. These cars are ingrained in the national identity and way of life. Hence, the switch to electric automobiles is not easy. Companies like Ford and Rivian are bringing electric trucks and SUVs to serve this market. But doubts about EV performance, hauling capacity, and dependability remain. Misinformation also fuels customer uncertainty. Potential consumers are typically discouraged by issues with battery life, charging delays, and long-term expenditures. Many, for example, think that charging infrastructure is inadequate or that EV batteries degrade quickly, even in places where this is improving. These misunderstandings draw attention to the need of improved consumer knowledge and open manufacturer and legislative communication. Dealing with customer opposition calls much more than only marketing. Manufacturers have to offer concrete proof of EV's benefits, including better performance, less maintenance, and environmental advantages. Trust and familiarity can also be developed by public awareness campaigns, long-term warranties, and test drive programs. 5. Restricted models access. The small range of models that are accessible adds still another major obstacle to EV acceptance in the United States. Although there are more EV choices now than there were years, their variety still lags behind the variety of gas-powered vehicles. Luxury or premium EVs are sometimes given top priority by automakers, therefore reducing the choices available to consumers looking for reasonably priced or useful solutions. For families and people living in rural areas especially, this lack of diversity causes great trouble. Many electric vehicles, EV models, are small cars, which might not satisfy the demands of bigger homes or those needing off-road capable vehicles. Although SUVs and electric vehicles are starting to show up on the market, their availability is still restricted and their costs are sometimes prohibitive. It's imperative to extend the spectrum of EV cars to include workhorse trucks, family-friendly SUVs, and reasonably priced sedans. Automakers also have to make sure dealerships have these vehicles readily available. Long wait times or low inventory can deter possible consumers, especially those who need a car right now. 6. Not enough government help. While the U.S. lags behind other countries in this area, government measures are very vital in increasing EV acceptance. By use of strong incentives, including tax breaks, free parking, and access to bus lanes, nations like Norway have attained extraordinary EV penetration. By comparison, American policies vary greatly by state and are sometimes contradictory. Progressive policies have been adopted by several states. California's obligation to phase out sales of gas-powered vehicles by 2035 is one example. Others, however, charge extra taxes to cover lost petrol tax income, therefore punishing individuals who chose greener cars. This absence of a cohesive national plan causes uncertainty and compromises initiatives to increase the acceptance of electric vehicles. The federal government must simplify rules, remove ineffective programs, and offer more robust incentives if it is to hasten the change. Additionally, helping to scale infrastructure and save costs are public-private partnerships and automotive cooperation. 7. Grid constraints on energy. Widespread EV acceptance is seriously hampered by America's aging electricity system. Rising electrical demand, integration of renewable energy sources, and major weather occurrences already strain the grid. Rising EV adoption could aggravate these problems and cause inefficiencies and disruptions. It is difficult and expensive to modernize the grid to meet growing demand for EV charging. To guarantee the grid can enable a clean energy transition, investments in renewable energy sources, including solar and wind, are absolutely necessary. Furthermore, enabling more efficient balance of supply and demand is smart grid technologies like demand response systems and distributed energy solutions. Utility firms and local governments also play roles. They have to coordinate infrastructure improvements, including transformer installation and network expansion for EV expansion. Public policies rewarding off-peak charging help to reduce system load and promote effective energy consumption. Lastly, from infrastructure and cost to cultural opposition and legislative gaps, America's shift to electric automobiles is riddled with difficulties. Dealing with these problems calls government, business, and consumers working together. The U.S. must overcome these challenges if it wants to really embrace the EV future and compete internationally, even if development is underway. Though the path forward may be challenging, the advantages of a successful transition from lower emissions to energy independence make the trip worthwhile. Let us know in the comments what you think about why America is struggling with EVs, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more captivating content on our YouTube channel.